Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Folks, sit down, buckle up, and maybe put a helmet on, because what I'm about to tell you is going to send shockwaves through NFL Twitter, through sports radio, through every barstool argument in America. The Denver Broncos, yes, your Denver Broncos, just got handed a truth bomb so massive that the rest of the AFC might want to start planning their off-season vacations early, because the paperwork is already written, the receipts are in, the numbers are out, and they all point to one inescapable, undeniable, cold-blooded fact: there is no team in the American Football Conference built like this one. Not the Chiefs, not the Ravens, not the Bills. Nobody. I'm Ben, diehard Broncos fan, and if you're new here, welcome to the party, because this offseason has been an absolute buffet of good news for us, and today we're feasting. If you love the Broncos, if you love Team USA, if you love watching other fan bases squirm while we quietly assemble a roster that reads like an all-star team, then do me a favor and smash that like button, hit subscribe, because the algorithm gods demand tribute, and honestly, you're gonna want to be here for what's coming next season. So here's the headline that's got everybody talking. A brand new ranking just dropped, and once again it confirms what we've been screaming from the rooftops for months. The Broncos don't just have a good roster. They have the roster. The best one in the entire AFC. Full stop. No asterisks. And when I tell you the evidence is piling up like snow in a Denver blizzard, I mean it. Let's start with the defense, because that's where the story gets almost unfair. Sleeper NFL dropped a stat on social media that should be framed and hung in the Broncos front office. Out of every single team in the league last season, only 4 managed to hold opposing quarterbacks to a completion percentage under 60%. 4 teams. That's it. And guess who was on that list? Your Denver Broncos. Which already tells you this defense is playing a different sport than everybody else. But here's the plot twist. Here's the part that makes this whole thing delicious. Go look at who else is on that list. Every other team mentioned, those are teams that Bo Nix personally dismantled. He walked into Houston without his top weapon Marvin Mims, who was in concussion protocol, and still torched the Texans' defense. He strolled onto the road in Philadelphia against the defending conference contenders and made the Eagles look pedestrian. He marched into Buffalo, missing J.K. Dobbins, missing Trey Franklin, missing Pat Bryant, and still completed passes at a rate that only elite quarterbacks manage. So think about that for a second. The same list proving how suffocating the Broncos' defense is also proves that Bo Nix was carving up legitimately great defenses without his full arsenal of weapons. That's not luck. That's not a fluke. That's a young quarterback operating like a certified problem for the rest of the league. And speaking of problems for the rest of the league, let's talk defense some more, because CBS just released their ranking of the top 20 defensive players in all of football. And while it's nice to see a bunch of NFC names sprinkled in there, what really matters to us is the AFC, because that's the gauntlet we have to run through to get back to the Super Bowl. And wouldn't you know it, sitting pretty at number 2 overall is Pat Surtain. Not number 2 in the AFC, number 2 in the entire league. Which means, plain and simple, the Broncos employ the best defensive player in the whole conference. That's not a hot take. That's not a fan's wishful thinking, that's CBS putting it in writing. Now here's where I want to zoom out, because it's easy to get caught up in one stat or one ranking. So let's look at the big picture, because no matter how you slice this thing, however you want to measure it, all-pro teams, Pro Bowl rosters, grades, NFL top 100 votes, doesn't matter which lens you pick up, you cannot escape the conclusion that the Broncos roster is loaded. And this isn't some rebuilding project hoping to get lucky. This is a 14-win team, a team that finished first in the entire AFC last season, a team that was one single unfortunate ankle injury to Bo Nix away from potentially playing in the Super Bowl. And here's the kicker. They're bringing literally everybody back. Every single piece that mattered. Nobody left. Nobody walked. The band is staying together, and honestly, in a league built on parity and cap gymnastics, that continuity alone should terrify everybody else in the conference. Let's talk numbers, because I promised receipts, and I'm delivering receipts. Last year, the Broncos had more All-Pro selections than any other team in the entire AFC. And get this, they were tied for the most in the whole NFL. 6 All-Pros. 6 players who were voted the single best at their position in all of professional football. That's not depth. That's not pretty good. That is a stacked deck. And who's the next closest team chasing that number in the AFC? The Baltimore Ravens. Sounds scary, right? Except one of their all-pro selections was their punter. Now hats off to the guy. Punting matters, field position matters. But let's be honest with ourselves. A great punter does not strike fear into an opposing offense the way a shutdown corner does. And speaking of shutdown corners, look at who Denver's got on that all-pro list. Garrett Bowles. An absolute wall at left tackle, protecting the quarterback's blind side like a bodyguard with something to prove. Devontae Keys stepping into a bigger role now that he's filling in at safety, but also an elite special teamer in his own right. Zach Allen, who was already a top 100 player the year before and then went out and tied historic sack rate numbers that put him in the same breath as Aaron Donald. Let that sink in. Aaron Donald, arguably the most dominant defensive lineman of this generation, and Zach Allen is being mentioned in the same category. Quinn Miners, the best guard in football, an absolute road grader up front. Pat Surtain, the literal second best defensive player alive right now, according to CBS. And Talanoa Hufanga, one of the premier safeties in the league. Look at that list again. That's not a punter and a departed running back. That's a murderer's row of talent at positions that decide games. Now let's talk Pro Bowl, because that pulls in the fan vote, the coach vote, the player vote, and the media vote. And while I'll always argue All-Pro is the more meaningful measuring stick because it strips out popularity contests, the Pro Bowl numbers are still worth a look because they bring a couple more names into the conversation. And once again, tied for the most Pro Bowlers in the AFC with, you guessed it, the Baltimore Ravens, where once again, one of those selections was a punter. And the other was a player who is no longer even on the team, having been overpaid by the Las Vegas Raiders this offseason. Meanwhile, Denver's extra Pro Bowl name is Courtland Sutton, who somehow didn't even crack the All-Pro roster but still made the Pro Bowl. So suddenly, we're not talking about 6 elite players anymore. We're talking about 8. But wait, there's more. Because last offseason, the NFL ran their top 100 players vote. This is players voting on which other players they respect and fear the most across the entire league. And the Broncos were near the top of the leaderboard for total selections. And here's a fun wrinkle. Bo Nix himself made that list, despite not making the Pro Bowl or the All-Pro team last season. Which means when you stack all of this together, All-Pro, Pro Bowl, Top 100, the Broncos are realistically running out close to 10 elite-level players. 10 on one roster. And every single one of them is coming back next season. Let that fact marinate for a second, because in the modern NFL, rosters get gutted every offseason. Salary cap casualties, free agency raids, players chasing bigger paydays elsewhere. It's basically the law of the jungle out there. For a 14-win, AFC leading roster to run it back completely intact is almost unheard of. And as if that wasn't already an embarrassment of riches, the front office didn't just stand pat and admit good enough. They went out and added another all-pro caliber weapon in Jalen Waddle. A player with multiple 1,000-yard seasons under his belt. A player who's made his own Pro Bowl and all-pro appearances. So this isn't a team that got good and got comfortable. This is a team that got good, kept everybody, and then added more gasoline to the fire. And can we talk about the offensive line for a second? Because Denver is bringing back what is, by every meaningful measure, the best offensive line in professional football. Full unit. Intact. Which means the continuity. The chemistry, the we've played next to each other for years and know exactly what the guy beside us is going to do factor is going to be an absolute cheat code heading into next season. Now here's a stat that should be tattooed on every Broncos fan's forearm. This defense had the wildest differential in the league last year. They sacked opposing quarterbacks more than any other defense in football, while simultaneously keeping Bo Nix cleaner in the pocket than any other offensive line managed for their quarterback. A plus 46 sack differential. Let that number sit with you. That's not good. That's video game numbers. On top of that, this defense finished first in total sacks, second in total defense, and third in fewest points allowed. 8 different players recorded 4 or more sacks apiece last season. 8. That's not one superstar carrying a unit. That's an entire defensive room full of certified problems for opposing offenses. And here's the part of the story that makes it even sweeter. The part that should genuinely terrify the rest of the AFC. This roster is still climbing out of a hole. Remember the Russell Wilson dead cap situation? The money the franchise had to eat just to move on from that experiment? Remember all those draft picks that got shipped out to originally acquire Russell Wilson and then again to bring in Sean Payton? Just sit with that for a second. Imagine, hypothetically, if the Broncos still had those extra first-round picks. Imagine if they still had those extra second-rounders. This roster, as terrifyingly good as it already is operating with a self-inflicted handicap from moves made years ago, and it's still the best roster in the conference. That should make every other AFC front office deeply, deeply uncomfortable. What makes this build even more impressive is how this roster came together. Because it wasn't one single path to success, it was every path, all at once. They've drafted and developed elite talent. Look at Pat Surtain, look at Nick Bonito, look at Marvin Mims. They've hit free agency and found exact scheme fits. Look at Talanoa Hufanga. They've made aggressive trades for proven difference makers. Look at Jalen Waddle. And then, maybe the most impressive path of all, they've unearthed straight-up diamonds in the rough as undrafted free agents. Actually published a piece ranking the best undrafted talents across the entire league, and Denver placed 3 players on that list. 3. Jaquan McMillian, quietly playing like one of the best slot corners in all of football. And he went undrafted. Alex Singleton, who earned the franchise's confidence to move on from a proven veteran linebacker because Singleton simply outplayed the price tag, also undrafted. And Dante Tillman, who led the entire team in interceptions last season and racked up 5 sacks in his rookie year alone. Again, undrafted, so really sit with the full picture here. More All-Pros than anybody in the conference. More Pro Bowlers than anybody in the conference. More undrafted diamonds turned stars than practically anybody in the league. A defense that broke the sack differential scoreboard. An offensive line bringing back every single starter. A quarterback who torched elite defenses without his top weapons available. And a front office that instead of resting on a 14-win season, went out and added Jalen Waddle to the mix just because they could. No matter how you slice it, no matter which stat sheet you flip to, no matter which analytics site you trust, the conclusion is the same. The Denver Broncos have the best roster in the entire AFC heading into next season. That's not homerism talking. That's not blind faith. That is a cold, hard, mic drop fact, backed up by All-Pro voting, Pro Bowl voting, grading, and the NFL's own players ranking their peers. Ball don't lie. And listen, I know we've got roughly 70 days left until this whole thing kicks off again, and I know that's going to feel like an eternity. But that's exactly why you need to be here with me for every single update between now and kickoff, because this story is only getting started. If this video got you fired up, if you're already dreaming about a Lombardi Trophy parade down the streets of Denver, do me a solid, smash that like button so this video gets pushed out to more Broncos fans who need to hear this. Drop a comment below and tell me which stat blew your mind the most. Or tell me I'm wrong and let's argue about it. I love that too. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we've got so much more Broncos breakdown content coming between now and the season opener. This is Ben, this is Brinkos, and I'll see you in the next one. Broncos country,